Is buying a home a smart investment or is it a financial trap? You see, some people say that renting is just throwing money away, but then others argue that owning a home could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of 25 or 30 years. So what is the truth? I'm going to be breaking it down for you today. And for the record, this isn't about pushing one side or the other. I'm here to lay out the facts and the numbers so you can make the best decision possible and see what fits your lifestyle. If you and I have not met, my name is Dilyar Murat. I'm a real estate broker here in the Greater Toronto area. I help people buy, sell, and invest in real estate. And I also make educational content like this here on YouTube. So if you're watching this, I would really appreciate it if you can give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I will be making a new video every week. With that said, let's get started. So I saw this on Instagram the other day by a very famous influencer, and I seen a lot of likes and shares. So I thought I could give you my take on it. You see, this is a very common anti-ownership argument. So basically what this post tells you is, let's say you bought a house for $400,000. In 30 years, that house appreciated and doubled in value to $800,000. You actually are losing money because that $400,000 home is going to cost you $1,169,000 by the time you factor in mortgage interest, maintenance, property taxes, insurance, etc. You see, I get it. It's dramatic, it's controversial, and on paper, it makes sense. These numbers, I haven't had a chance to verify all of it, but it doesn't seem too far off. So at first glance, yes, it's terrible. You bought a house for $400,000, you sold it for $800,000, but it actually cost you almost $1.17 million over 30 years and you're losing money. But there is just something missing here, and I wanted to show you what it is. You see, a lot of people that are against owning a home use a very similar example, right? When they're arguing, they use something very similar in terms of numbers. They look at the actual cost of ownership, your interest rate, etc. over 30 years, and they say, well, you know what? Owning a house just does not make sense. And this is not the first time I've seen a similar post. Now, here in the Greater Toronto area, owning a house for $400,000 doesn't exist, right? House prices are way more than that. You and I know that, but let's just go with this example. Now, remember, if you don't own a house, you still have to live somewhere, which means you have to pay rent. And there's nothing wrong with that, but let's just say you pay $2,000 a month. If you pay $2,000 a month over 30 years, that's $720,000 in rent. Now you gotta remember, at the end of 30 years, you don't own anything. You don't have a house, you don't have an asset, you just pay rent. Now here is the kicker. Rent is like anything else. Rent goes up over time. So the rent that you pay today for $2,000 isn't going to be $2,000 5 or 10 years from now. Chances are it will go up. So let's just say your rent goes up by a very conservative number of 2%. Okay, so your rent goes up by 2% annually. Over the course of 30 years, you'll actually be paying just shy of $1 million in rent. So yes, owning a house is expensive, but renting is expensive as well. The difference is when you own, you're going to make mortgage payments. At the end of 30 years, you're not going to have a mortgage, and it goes towards an asset that could potentially go up in value. Whereas with renting, you don't have that option. Now, I'm going to talk about the benefits of renting and how you can maximize your savings and investment. But before I do that, let me quickly go over something very important. This is a very underrated part about owning a home. You see, real estate builds wealth not just because of appreciation, but also because of structure and discipline. I've said this again and again. Real estate in itself isn't some magic investment that grows all the time. And there are a lot of people who lost a lot of money in real estate. And if you bought and sold at the wrong times and bad times, you could have lost a lot of money. At the end of the day, real estate has risks. If you look at it like an investment, just like crypto and stocks and mutual funds, real estate could also go down in value and you could lose a lot of money. But we've all heard this phrase. It's not timing the market, it's time in the market. You see, real estate is not liquid, and that in itself is a curse and a blessing. So when you really need the money, you can't just panic sell real estate like you would stocks or crypto. It's going to take time, and depending on the market, you might not even be able to sell it. And because of that, people hold on to their homes longer. So even when the market is down, people are forced to make monthly mortgage payments just to keep that home. And that forced discipline is what builds wealth over time. With real estate, just like any other investment, if you stay in the game, that's half the battle. You see, that's why for many people, real estate ends up being their biggest financial win. Not because real estate in itself is some magic investment, but rather, real estate is the easiest one to stay committed to. But now, I want to talk about renting because renting is not throwing money away. And renting is certainly not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, for a lot of people, renting just makes sense. Now, if you value flexibility, maybe you're changing careers or you're starting out your career, you're moving to different cities or personal situations, maybe you've changed. Renting gives you the flexibility and freedom to do that. And I live in Whitby, Ontario, right? So I'm on the east end of the GTA here. But if you really look at the entire GTA, house prices are very expensive. So for many people, owning a home is just a distant dream. And also here in the Toronto area, it's far cheaper to rent the exact same house than to own it, because by the time you factor in maintenance fees, property taxes or condo fees and mortgage interest, owning just becomes way more expensive on a month-to-month basis. And when I say renting is cheaper, I don't mean by a couple $100s. Sometimes to rent the exact same home, it's like $1,000 to $1,500 cheaper than to own that same home. Plus, when you're renting, you don't have to put up a big down payment and pay land transfer tax and legal fees. So that's another big lump sum that you're going to be saving if you're renting as opposed to buying. In other words, if you want to rent, you don't have to worry about a big upfront cost. Also, you don't have to worry about what Bank of Canada is doing with interest rates. You don't got to worry about property tax hikes, maintenance, roof breaking down, furnace, etc., because all that is covered by the landlord. And here's the key. If you're disciplined enough to invest what you would have spent on a down payment or the high monthly housing cost into the market, right? Mutual funds, stocks, whatever you name it, you could do very, very well. So to give you an example, instead of putting down $60,000 on down payment and closing costs and owning a home and paying $4,000 a month in mortgage payments, you can take the $60,000 and that extra amount that it's going to cost you to own that home, and you can invest that into the market, and you could do very, very well. As a matter of fact, renting and investing the difference is a very smart investment strategy. There are a lot of people who've done that, and they've vastly outperformed real estate returns over the course of 10, 15, 20, 30 years because they stayed disciplined and they consistently invested the difference into the market. But here's the kicker. Most people are not disciplined enough because they don't invest the difference. They just spend it. But for some people, if they stay disciplined, renting isn't just smarter, it's strategic, right? You can build a lot of wealth over time. So to summarize it, is owning a home perfect? No. Is renting bad? Also no. So here's the real question. Do you want flexibility or do you want stability? Are you financially ready for home ownership, or does renting make more sense right now? And if you are looking to rent long-term by choice, are you investing the difference? Because over the next 10, 15, or 20, or 30 years, you're going to have to pay someone or something either way. So at the end of the day, both renting and owning have its pros and cons. The key is understanding your numbers, your goals, and your own psychology. Now, with that said, if you want to book a meeting with me to talk about your real estate needs, feel free to do so by clicking on the first link in the bio. With that said, see you next time.